That's a great way of representation of the reset of your career. It's not a way of developing your career. If you think of the better career, you should go to different company. Joining a company is really good, but founding a company is basically reset of your. YC teaches how to think from the customer's perspective. I have a cool idea. I have a cool technology. I want to build a business. The first answer is, hey, what are the customers? One of the biggest blocker for founder is basically the answers. And we have some thoughts that I'm trained, I'm educated. The important part is that you have to keep learning continuously.
Imagine writing code before you understood basic math. That's where Soohyun Bae's journey began. After doing groundbreaking work at Google Maps and Pokemon Go, Soohyun spotted an invisible bottleneck crippling AI development. He discovered countless hours of wasting to evaluate AI manually. He joined the Y Combinator to fund startups to solve this problem. His latest one, Podonos, now can evaluate AI in hours, not weeks. In this episode, Soohyun shares his insider YC playbook, from application strategy to demo day secrets, giving you the blueprint that YC taught him. His battle-tested vision might just transform how you build in the AI era. Let's get started.
I was born and raised in Korea. I went to college and then worked for a company in Korea. When I was young, I was naturally raised as a software engineer. My dad was a software engineer and my brother was also a software engineer. I still remember as a third grader, we shared a computer source code in a magazine. And once I come back home, my job was to type the source code. Sometimes it is in the machine language or the assembly, type 2 to 3 hours. And once my father came back home and we got together, check if the code works or not. And sometimes we need to debug it by ourselves. It was really fun to understand how the computer works, how the graphics works. And we discuss why it works or it doesn't work every night.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating experience because I think you grew up in that age. Is very few children have access to computers, let alone doing programming as the homework.
Yeah.
How do you think that impact your future career choice and influence your life?
Typically, the children think they want to be a president or a politician or the general in an army or the doctor, teacher. But because of the unique environment in my family, I was naturally thinking, okay, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a scientist. So I was thinking that, oh, it's going to be an engineering. It's going to be something like writing computer code and making the computer understand the world, interact with the world. It's going to be cool. So I was basically dragged by something cool. And even in the middle school days, I started writing code in assembly.
Well, assembly is a hard language.
It's a hard language. My dad brought a book of system computer programming. And it's quite challenging book. And I was reading that book and I started writing code in assembly. The computer friends, we started writing code and then showing something cool. It is not really useful, but something cool. And we show some images of slangs and something cool effect. Assembly, Monday morning, we got together and we showed that, hey, mine is cool, yours is cool. That was fun. And at some moment, I started writing some code. I shared that in a community and it started writing, making some noise. One of the college students contacted me that, hey, can you turn off the noise? And I said, yeah, and I added an option. Later, he contacted me, can you sell the source code? And I said, yeah, how much are you going to pay me? He said, $25. Deal. And we got together and I sent the code in a printed format and he gave me $25. That was my first sales of computer software.
Wow, you are a businessman in such an early age.
That was a lot.
One thing you mentioned about is so interesting that you basically grow up in an environment with such a good vibes of both academic research and computer science and also business. You basically are the first generation that knows computer science. Nowadays, we'll enter into AI, so a lot of kids now they are just growing with AI as their first thing. But I'm curious, are you teaching the AI to your kids nowadays?
I taught Python and much easier. I really want my kids to understand the basic concept of the computer program, like functions, variables, and whatever they do, these concepts will be very useful. And AI is, in some senses, a very hard topic. In some sense, it is fun and easy topic, right? If you think of prompt engineering as an AI, it's something cool. But if you think of the AI as a transformer's perspective, it is very challenging. I really want them to utilize whatever the AI is for.
One thing you mentioned about that is very fascinating is about the parallel between AI and programming, because they're also very for children. And oftentimes we will think of these things are so hard, so we shouldn't teach children. But in fact, things we feel like hard, it might feel easy for them. And especially when they grow up with that high environment with those technology inside, they take it for granted. From your experience, it actually gave you a very good starting point of a computer science career. Also, like you mentioned about in high school, you started to do a little business in your high school. And then after college, did you continue the majors or what passion?
I got more interested in the reconstruction of the 3Ds. And around the time, I got connected with leaders in the imaging groups in the Google Maps. And I got an offer from Google, and I joined Google Maps team.
Yeah, I saw that you spent like almost 5 years in Google, and then decided to do a startup.
Yeah.
And I know that's a very big decision many people can make to leave Google and do a startup. What prompted you to make such a decision? What happened?
Yeah, typically Googlers spend years in one team, and then they look for another fun project and switch a different team and work on the different project. But no, in my Google days, I spent 5 years at the same team. And I worked on aerial 3D reconstruction, satellite-based reconstruction, and drone reconstruction. I was thinking, okay, I'm done with flying cameras. So I'm going to come down to the ground level cameras on smartphones. I think the smartphone has a very strong capability for the 3D reconstruction. At the time, the smartphone was not really actively used for the indoor reconstruction. So internally, I was talking with several people to support the project. None of them was really interested. So I decided, okay, I want to do this. I cannot do this inside Google. So I'm going to start a company. So I left Google, started a company.
When you left the Google, did you find a co-founder then?
Yeah, I had a co-founder. He is a different, amazing person. He was a CEO. I was a CTO. And we have a clear vision of the map construction and sharing on mobile phones. And they can be used for the gaming experiences and also robots. And then we built a platform, the communications was quite fast and straightforward. At some moment, we got connected with my friends, and my friends' company was got acquired by Niantic. And then we also got connected with Niantic. And that was the very smooth process of selling the company to Niantic.
I see. And then you joined the Niantic as part of this position?
Yeah, so we sold the company to Niantic, and I joined. And Niantic has a heritage of Google Maps.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, when I arrived at the office, 1/3 of the people in the office was not new. I saw you in the GWC2. I saw you on the Maps building, and then they recognized me. I recognized them, and I was feeling like it is not selling the company. It's more like coming back home.
Yeah, actually, that's very interesting because Niantic, I also know a lot of the people. They are like very Google culture, and in fact, a lot of the Googlers, when they do the startup, they will be acquired either backed by Google or like Niantic. How do you feel like the experiences have a journey of startup and come back to the same environment? What is your takeaway from that whole journey?
Yeah, I think during the process, I learned a lot. It is a real business. And then we were clear about the businesses, but we had to be much more clear about the businesses, especially defining ICP, size of the market, how to set up a strategy, which tech we're going to build. We initially had to have clear picture of that. Of course, nothing happens as planned. Since you're running a startup, you know that even though this is a goal, you have a plan, but in the reality, it goes a totally different direction. Yeah. But you should have a goal, but have a clear plan. That was a really great journey and a huge amount of learning.
That's such a great way to learn and bootstrap learning about doing the business as well. And you spent a couple of years in Niantic. Tell us a little bit more of your experience there.
Yeah, that was another paradigm for the engineers. That Pokemon Go has huge number of users all over the world. And even before I started a company, when I was at Google Maps, we saw the success of the Niantic project. We were thinking that, oh yeah, they work with the people all over the world and let people walk all over the places. How about working with them to scan the world so that we can have live 3D of the real world? It's going to be cool. They will work on that. And then later I realized that I am working on it. And it is amazing that once we launch a feature and people start using that, collecting huge amount of data, and that's really a scalable and cheap way of collecting data all over the world. And that was a dream for augmented reality and 3D reconstruction.
Yeah. Yeah, Niantic is a very fascinating company. Most people know that because of the Pokemon Go. But also Niantic is the internal startup at Google. So they come the Google Maps team. And they have an incredible book called Never Lost Again, which I also read when I was at Google Get Inspired. It was Google Maps team. They were acquired by Google and spent a couple of years, and they built Google Maps inside of Google, incredibly successful. And then they started to start up internally and spin out, become a separate company. I'm curious from your experiences in Niantic, how do you like Niantic culture? What is the part that is the same as Google, and also what is the part that is different?
The Niantic has a very unique culture. The gaming industry has its own culture. Inside Niantic, we have a gaming team and also the technology teams. We have two types of cultures moving well together. Basically, the infrastructure, build the technology, and interact with the people in an academic society. And also bringing those infrastructures to the gaming experiences and be more with the human collaboration. In some sense, we were thinking that it is a real world social network because then we encourage people to see each other, interact with each other. The very fun culture, very exciting culture. And I was really impressed with how these two types of cultures are mixed together and they build a unique culture inside Niantic.
Yeah. The Niantic culture is very old, and then later you decided to start your founder journey again. You mentioned about you went to YC because YC is like an accelerator, like incubator in the sense of turning ideas into a business. A lot of the people working in the bigger companies, they will have very cool ideas about doing awesome projects, but it's very far away from being a real business. That's the purpose of accelerator or incubators. The YC is actually designed for that, turn ideas into startup. Can you tell us a little bit about your YC experience?
Yes, YC was really amazing place for the founders. The founders have a different background. Some of them are college dropouts. Some of them are engineers. Some of them from Amazon, Google, Facebook, and some of them already accomplished researchers. I saw some of them fellows. They have tons of publications, and they are working on something very futuristic. Or some of the moonshot projects. But whatever they do, what YC teaches how to think from the customer's perspective. I have a cool idea. I have a cool technology. I want to build a business. The first answer is, hey, who are the customers? Who is going to pay money? And why it is a burning problem, burning pain? And how much are they going to pay? And how to approach those customers. These are the questions they continuously ask. If it is not clear and push them, you should think about the problem and have a clear answer. And if it is clear, your answer is going to be short.
Curious how the YC program look like. How does the process, how long did it take for you to apply? What exactly happened when you enter YC?
So with submit application process is not that hard. Just fill out some of the questionnaires and then record the video of ourselves, 1 minute video, and then product video, submit that one. And then once you select it, you will have an interview with the partner and other members and having a question. And very short, straightforward. The typical first question is, what are you guys working on? And it has to be a short answer. We are working on X, Y, Z. Instead of long description. How big is going to the market? Who are the customers? Why they use that? Why it is not a problem they can solve it immediately? Who are the competitors? And how do you approach them? What is a unique idea that others don't have, but you have? And all those questions are very relevant. If you really want, you can look for YC interview questions. You can easily get 200 questions. But the YC partners genuinely want to understand who you are, what are the businesses. Because there are so many cases that the YC companies change the direction. And even during the batch period, many companies change the direction. But they want to focus on your ability and the team.
Gotcha. And during the YC program, do you get a regular meeting with the YC partner?
Yes, regular meetings, and also the YC invites the former YC founders from DoorDash, from other well-known companies, and share the experiences. It is very inspiring. Building a startup is not a fun way. They follow that, why they failed, how they fix it, and market changes, how they respond to those market changes.
And the partners will work with you on figuring out the solutions on that.
They invited speaker sessions and the partner discussions. And also the one important part is working with other founders. They share the experiences and ideas with other founders. And founders are encouraging each other and also try to find customers. Do you think this is a customer of your service? Oh yeah, I'm gonna make an introduction and try to encourage each other's companies.
Gotcha.
So the founder connection is basically permanent. Even after the batch, we encourage each other. We communicate, sometimes have a chat, sometimes have a dinner together.
I see. Because right now the YC batch is pretty big. When it started, it was small batch, but now it's every year, like batch is a few hundred companies. Is there any smaller cohorts within the YC?
Yeah, so they build a small cohort depending on the partners and also the types of businesses. The small groups, those companies are working on similar types of B2B, B2C companies are grouped together. B2B companies, some of them are working on finances, insurance, legal, tax, and they get together and share ideas. And sometimes become their customers. Becoming a customer is really important, not just for the revenue perspective, but also learning how they build a product and giving an idea, how they move really quickly, and giving feedback. That's basically the learning process for each other.
So you just mentioned about the YC partners, they will offer you advice in helping to solve the problem. Also, there's cohort of founders who could potentially become your customers and help each other.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one thing very interesting because a lot of people, they have this concept like YC gang or YC group, like they help each other.
Yes.
And you mentioned about they becoming customers from each other. Any other support you would get from the YC fellow founders?
Yeah, one of them, another benefit is the virtual introduction to the investors, potential customers, and for founders for recruiting. So sometimes, hey, I know I have a connection with this investor. I think they are the right fit for your company, and they make an intro. And another part is I know one company who they did a good job, but the one founder started to leave, and they're looking for another YC company that they want to join. Especially like that someone has a founding experience is a really great team member in an early stage companies. So they make an intro, and they join the company, and they work together. There are lots of the mutual interest and then support each other. And also, not only that one, there are also the paper reading groups.
Oh, paper reading.
Yeah, paper reading groups and ski teams. Sometimes they go ski together. There are many active channels among the founder society.
Gotcha. So that's really helpful. Many people are very curious about YC. They also have the demo day.
Yeah.
Is demo day hard?
Demo day is definitely helpful, but many things are happening before demo day. Even before demo day, they started talking with VCs.
So they will have a kickoff of fundraising process?
It depends. Like sometimes the VCs got to know them and then make a connection with the founders. Some companies just be quiet and focusing on the product and customers. Try to go as further as possible during the batch and even before the demo day. It depends on the company. And even after the demo day, they go through the long process of fundraising. So like the investors wants to know about more details of the company and we can chat. And some of them are in, some of them say no, and some of the investors make an introduction to other VC.
One thing you mentioned about some companies that will do fundraising after the demo day. I'm curious that do you have to finish the fundraising during the demo day? If you do it afterward, does the process getting harder? Do you get any penalty because you didn't finish?
I think it depends. I think there is no penalty in the finishing the fundraising after the demo day. Some companies start early and some companies start late. I think there is no big difference between them. Basically, some companies have a different funding structure, different caps, or a different amount of money. So it depends on each company's goal.
Yeah. So the different companies have different goals about fundraising. So YC is providing a platform. So if you need to do the fundraising, they can help to make the intro before the demo day. Demo day itself, maybe there's a lot of investors, and also afterward.
And also, let's say that we know which company is funded by which VC. So that we can approach those founders. Hey, your company is funded by this VC. Can you make an intro? And typically they say, oh, sure. Can you share a blurb? And I'm going to share.
Gotcha. Do you think that from the YC level fund is helpful for the fundraising process?
The fundraising is a way of committing with each other. Basically, like a VC is committing onto the company. And then before making a commitment, they should have a confidence. Let's say that I got to know someone really amazing, but I don't know them really well. Then building a confidence takes some time. Right. In some cases, this new person is my friend's friend. Then I have a trust on my friend, and then my friend said, "Oh, this is cool. I know that really well." Then it helps us to shrink time for building a trust of each other.
And a lot of people are very interested in YC is a very good platform, but also the YC terms are not super great. So how do you think about the YC terms, and do you feel like the equity they take is worthwhile?
Yeah, the YC terms are already widely known. They put 150K for 7%, if I remember correctly. And if you think of their value, what they actually provide is huge. At the first step, you are in the community and you get advices from experienced partners. Second, you are in the community of the founders and you share the information. Even inside YC, if after the batch, many companies share their experience. Fundraising, lots of postings are there. There is a huge opportunity to be in the community. So you should not think of it as a similar YC safe investment. It's a different type of structure.
Yeah, so YC providing a lot of other values outside the initial money they provide. I'm also very curious, what would be the situation a founder should not apply?
It depends. Like the YC is definitely early stage accelerator. If you think you are a late stage, it may not be a right place. And also it is an accelerator, which means that you should accelerate. And you should be ready to move extremely fast. Then I think YC is the right place. You are moving comparatively slow. It's a big boat moving slow. Then I think YC is not a good place. So it depends. You should be small and nimble, move fast, and getting an advice, accept an advice, and they move really fast. Then YC is the best place.
So YC provides you structures which will give you the platform to move fast and also getting this momentum. If you feel that your company is not in that stages, you're not ready to do that, maybe the later batches will be a better idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually comes to a very interesting question as we doing the startup and like you have done a couple of startup, like this startup have different cycles in it. In the very, very early stages, you are not sure what you're going to do. Figuring out the mapping the landscape.
Yeah.
At some stages, you will feel like have more gas, like the vehicle will move faster, will move faster. I'm very curious as through your startup journey, both in this and other startups, how did you decide which stages you are? How do you decide, should I accelerate? Should I still keep exploring? Yeah.
I think it depends on your type of business. Say you are in B2B, and there will be multiple stages. The market research stage, basically talking with potential customers. And the second step is building a product or talking with real customers and generating revenue. Having customers from 1 to 10 is definitely challenging. 10 to 100 is a different challenge. 100 to 1,000 is another type of challenge. At each stage, you need to go through a different type of the challenges happens inside your company and your customers. And you need to figure it out and make it work. You can think of it as, for the B2B cases, which market you are tapping into and how many customers you have, and also the size of the deals. Depending on that, you can think of the place you are now in the market.
Yeah, you mentioned about that you work and study Niantic. It made me realize data is very important and you work on the startup. And then later you get very excited about data parts, and that leads to Podonos.
Yeah.
Curious that how does that journey get started? How many customers Podonos currently have?
Yeah, we currently have around 10 customers. We are focused on voice areas first. I'm interested in voice, image generation, LLM, 3D reconstruction, all these areas. But as a small startup company, we cannot do everything.
Right.
So we have to pick one market which is growing fast, and we laser focus on that. And once we knock down that market first, we can expand to nearby markets. We already connected with companies in the nearby markets, and they contact us and, hey, can you support this? Can you support that? And we continuously say, yes, please wait, because then we want to laser focus on one market and make it really work. And once we confirm that we are too busy with customers, that is going to be a signal that, okay, customers in this market loves us. Then we are ready to expand the modality from voice to 3D, maybe video generation.
You started that last year, and it's awesome that you already got like 10 customers and integrating with them. You also did a very interesting way of getting the customer development for the Podonos, and in particular talking about customer, finding customer and identifying the idea. So how do you do that? Like in the early days, how did you iterate with customers and get ideas for Podonos?
Yeah, I think as a ML PhD, I have some idea. But the question is, that is not going to be the first step of the business. The first step has to be the customers. Before I have a hypothesis on the market, I had a chance to talk with more than 100 customers, contacted almost everyone in my network, and only 10% replied back. And I had a chance to talk with them. Basically, like instead of telling my idea, I asked them, what is your pain point? Some of them says, oh, I think we have a low number of GPUs. Oh yeah, that's a pain. Some of them says, oh, we have a problem with data lately. Oh, Scale.ai is doing great, please. But many of them are talking about the performances of the GenAI models. They had image generation, speech enhancement, the LLMs, and their pain is in the refinement stages. Like pre-training is basically, hey, I have a GPU, I have a model, I have a data, click button, then I have a pre-trained model. And the real pain happens after that. Continuously refining the model. And to do the refinement, they need to continuously take a look at the output of the generative models. Like one company told me that every Tuesday and Saturday, there are 40 members, and they spend 3 hours Tuesday night and Saturday night. They order pizza, and they sit down together, generate X, maybe 100, 200 outputs, and then you manually label them. It's very painful and slow process. So that's the reason they told me that, hey, is there any way to make it better? And I talked with many other companies and they said, yeah, it is. I have the same problem on the evaluation for a couple of months. And I asked the question, are you happy? And they said, no, we are not happy. Why? You spend huge amount of money. You should be happy because the iteration is really slow. And for the iteration of evaluation, they spend 3 weeks, which means that today I have some model that I want to take a look at, and they make a request for evaluation, and they get the result in 3 weeks, which means that once the evaluation output is delivered, it is outdated because they need the result tomorrow morning. Yeah.
That's a very interesting problem. And also you mentioned about a great point is that when you talk with customers, a lot of times customers don't know what they want. Like if you ask a person about a better home, like they basically like how to improve the transportation in 19th centuries, they will say a better horse.
Yes.
It wouldn't tell you to do the automobile or other things. But also mentioned they give you a lot of other problems they have. You identified the evaluation in the refinement as the particular problem you want to go to. How did you figure out that pattern? Did you use any framework or how did you do those like custom discovery?
Customer discovery it takes a long time and it depends on the type of the businesses. For us, I don't have any intention to sell a product. My intention is to listen to them about their pain point. Whatever their pain points, I'm happy to listen to them. If there is anything that I can help, I'm going to help. My analogy is I'm a salesperson at Tesla and I have a friend in Lamborghini. And one customer coming in and, hey, I'm going to buy a car which runs really fast. And once I hear that, I think we should buy a Lamborghini instead of Tesla. So instead of selling Tesla, I guide that customer to my friend at Lamborghini. So it's basically, I'm solving their problem, but I'm not selling my product, but I build a trust. So building a trust is the first step. And the solving the problem, whatever the problem is, try to solve it. Sometimes forward them to different companies, my friends' companies, and you should have a chat with them and this. And by doing that, I can build a trust, whoever the person is. Then later, they become my customers, or sometimes they make an intro to the real qualified lead. So the building a trust with the potential customers is a really important step. And later, I really want them to talk about the problem that I can solve. Let's say that there is a customer, and I'm a salesperson at Tesla. There's a customer, hey, I want to buy the electric vehicle, which is very nice, having a self-driving car feature. And yeah, we have that. I'm going to help you. So that's a natural way to build a trust and sell the product.
After you talk with 120 customers and getting their pains, how do you turn those things into an actual product?
Yeah, I built a small web page and I went to a local Starbucks. And each person needs 15 minutes of evaluation time. So I talked to some of them, hey, can you give me your 15 minutes? Then I'm going to give you $10 of the Starbucks gift card. And they say, yeah, why not? Here's a link, go down, and you can listen to them do the evaluation. And then I can finish every evaluation for around 3 hours. That's it. And then tomorrow morning, I deliver the result. And they said, oh, this is cool. And they paid $500. That was the first revenue that we generated. Even before product, we generated revenue with no market.
In these processes, because one thing is about figuring out the market need and also trying to turn that into a solution that you can do it manually. And in these cases, you went to Starbucks and find people to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And did you try any other things like that eventually leads to the products of the Podonos? I know the Podonos product is about evaluations.
Yes, it's like initially we were thinking, okay, this is a market, this is a value. We build a product, people started using that. So it is not really a solution for their real pain points. We're solving their burning pain. So we have a chat with them. I ask them to have a 30-minute chat with me, and I prefer face meeting instead of online call. So I drive them wherever they are. I drive them and then have a chat with them and ask a question. What do you do after you got the results? And they mentioned we do this. Okay, that's good after that. And once you're going deeper and deeper, they tell their real pain points. I have these pain points, I have that pain points. One example is a multi-language. Our AI starts speaking some language in Asia that we don't speak. How to know if it is a good pronunciation or not? Okay, we just realized that our AI does not speak that language very well. How to fix that? How to get the data? It is not just a massive amount of data. It is a data for fixing those problems and continuously close the loop of the model refinement. It's basically a way of customizing each model or each use cases for their customers. It is a real pain point, and my customers are willing to pay huge amount of money for each direction. And in some cases, each vertical, in some cases, each languages, and also different dimensions like the emotions, the latency, and interface, multiple dimensions. And it is a business.
So what I have to say is that when you ship the initial MVP to your customers, instead of just give to them and hopefully they'll give back feedback to you, you just drive to their places and see what they are using to figure out end-to-end workflow and identify other pain points that is related to the original solution you developed. I'm very curious, this is because it's a very creative ways of identify the whole solution rather than just solve a small thing on a big workflow. But it also can lead sometimes like proliferations of the use cases or proliferation of the product. How do you make the balance between?
Yeah, it is very hard to find a good balance between the focusing on those areas and then look at the nearby areas. Because there is no guarantee that your first product is the product that you will operate in 5 years. There are so many cases in the market. Like there are so many B2B products that used to be a different product, but it is now running as a different product. Look at Snowflake, look at Databricks, look at weights and biases. All these products were initially different products. They start from some place that solves certain problem, but they solve a problem really well. And then later, they are moving slowly different directions and now at the optimal place for solving the customer's real pain. So I think we are following the same. We solve a certain type of problem in a vastly bigger market. And once we solve this problem in a really amazing way, our customers naturally tells us what their next problem is. Hey, we have this problem, can you solve it? And of course, we cannot solve everything, but depending on the level of the pain for the payments, we prioritize that and make it.
Yeah. So you mentioned also about your team. You have an amazing team. It's very interesting distributed team. It's you're global from day one. You had team both in Korea and also in the US.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your take about how to build a startup team.
Yeah. The only team members are really good. Like the first 10 employees or the maybe.
How big is the team?
Currently, we have three. I think the initial 10 members, including founders, build a culture, and then the culture will last until 100 people. Then, for now, over 100, the culture will shift differently. For current 10 team members are really important. Then you should have a clear idea of the culture you want to build. Basically, which means that it's like operating system of the computer. It's like the principles of your company. You have a clear idea how we are going to work together. Then you can check if we are going to the right direction to build that culture. If you think it is a gap, then you should make a decision. But so far, our current team is in 2 time zones, and that was actually intentional because of multiple reasons. But I think it is the right decision, and because we work following our core principles. We keep the culture the same, and we are continuously build a culture over time. The one reason I set up the offices from day one is that we want to take a look at our customers' requests. Whatever they request, we want to take a look at that and check if that makes sense or not. So to do that, someone in our team has to be up 24/7. Of course, technically it's not possible. We have to go to sleep. We have our team members continuously monitoring while we're sleeping, and the Korean team members are continuously monitoring. And to do that, we can see all the evaluation requests going on, and if it is valid or not, it is the right way to use our service or not. Sometimes our customers request too many things at once, and to our eyes, it is not necessary. From the revenue perspective, it is good, but from customer's perspective, it's not good. We tell them, hey, you want to adjust these parameters to this and reduce down our revenue. But we know this is the right thing for the customers, and they have just accepted, and they're happy. That's another way of building up trust. And when there is an issue, they contact us through Slack channel. Basically, our role is that we want to respond as soon as possible, maximum of 3 hours. We may not provide a solution, but we respond within 3 hours, which is a huge amount of work, which is not scalable. But
We should do things that don't scale.
it is a way of building a trust. We want our customers to feel we are always there next to them, and we're happy to solve the problem.
Yeah, you mentioned a very interesting part because a lot of people talk about this advantage of distributed team as early stage of startup. Conventional wisdom is like everyone should be in a garage doing it together. The benefit of that, which I also experienced before, is that when you have people in different time zones, especially Asian time zone, the time you can build a flow that almost like the company never sleep. Every individual person can get their own rest. Message every 3 hours, but not sustainable. But there's also a lot of caveats challenging on that. It takes a process to make it work. I'm curious how did you manage the team between the two so that they can smoothly transition between the work and make actually work?
Yeah, the best management, of course, 2 time zones and 2 teams is not to manage. I told everyone I will not manage. First, I'm the manager, but I'm not checking when they come to the office, when they leave the office, how many hours they work. I cannot. And we have a single KPI every week or every month. We do not have multiple KPIs. We have a single KPI. We share that with
And everyone's responsible.
everyone
Yeah.
working toward that single KPI. At that single moment, we have a single KPI. Instead, let's say that if we have multiple KPI, then it's really hard to keep the focus and let everyone focus on one problem or multiple problems for a single KPI is really important. You should have a commitment and you should have dedication to this problem and single KPI. That's it. If we all agree with that, people are excited about and fully dedicated to that problem, then I don't need to manage.
Gotcha. It's basically what I have is align the incentive of everyone because especially for the distributed team, it's very important to make sure they are aligned by the way they are evaluated as well, like a single thing. So there's no you versus me dynamics happening in the team as well. And also, you mentioned about culture. That is very important. And you had a team in Korea and in the US, which has drastically different culture. I'm curious about how this team with 2 cultures work together, and is there anything you do that to make them to have the coherent cultures of Podonos?
Yes. As a small team, we have to have a single culture, single KPI, and we communicate together. Typically, the communication is a blocker for the remote teams. And we already experienced that when we have a communication issue and then we sit down together face to face like this and have a chat, then it is resolved. The remote communication is definitely challenging. Build a church structure that does not require dense communication across the 2 teams. It's another important part. Another thing is we have to have a single culture, fully dedicated, and we communicate in a very efficient way. So build a structure like that, and Basically, it's a way of bring all them together into a single problem. Basically, we work together for solving this problem today, this week. Is probably the best way to bringing everyone's focus onto one area and then having a single culture. I really want this culture is well cultivated over time. So let's say that we have a 20 people team or a 50 people team, we have a single culture and single focus onto the business.
So another question I have is if you had incredible experiences working in a big company, Solly, Google, Niantic, you just cannot stop what I see you is like cannot stop doing startup. You do the first startup, get acquired, and do second startup, do third startup. Your journey is also very inspiring for many people. And what would be your advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs, who are in the early stages of your life career?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest blocker for founder is basically ourselves. Like we have an ego and we have some thoughts that I'm trained, I'm educated. And because of that reason, they want to bring their prior experience and knowledge into the business. But that's important. The important part is that you have to keep learning continuously over time. Basically, learning from customers, learning from team members, learning new tools, learning new way of working. Your learning has to be fast and fast. It is not a shame. You have an experience, you started a company previously, you have a PhD in some areas, and you are learning, and you realize I didn't know something, don't be ashamed. Keep learning, and once you are sure you're ready to keep learning, then I think you're ready to become a entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned is actually very resonating to me. It's about the objective, the objective of your life.
Yeah.
What is the goal you're optimizing learning?
Yeah.
And especially for us who has a very stable trajectory, has been doing very well in our careers and going big companies, have good teams working over there.
Yeah.
We oftentimes will be complacent. Like we are into a space that's very comfortable, but actually the learning rate is going down. And in order to be a startup founder, there really is a whole journey of learning. Just keep, like another keyword I have mentioned was ego.
Yeah.
I think Steve Jobs talked about stay foolish, stay hungry.
Yeah.
It's actually about don't have the ego, keep the learning, even if that means reset. Leave the Google to do your first startup, leave the Niantic your second startup. It's a reset of career, but it's also a way to accelerate learning. Many cases, startup founders need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way of representation of the reset of your career. It's not a way of developing your career. If you think of the better career, you should go to different company. Joining a company is really good. But founding a company is basically reset of your career. Let's say that you have the great research experience as a top university, and then you become the CEO of the company. Your first job is to sell the product, not publishing paper. And then your training so far as a PhD may not be fully useful for selling a product because probably 80% of the selling is continuously listening, not telling or writing. So how to listen to them is another skill. The thing I learned when I started a company is basically I have a chat with my potential customers and I have a note taker in my call, and the note taker record the video and then taking notes, and I can see the bar graph of talking, how much time I talk, how much time my customer talk. I talk a lot. That's a really bad signal. I was intentionally reducing my talking and ask the people to talk more. And now it becomes the 70%. Then it is much easier to understand their pain points and suggest solutions.
Another thing I'm very curious about is that you grew up in Korea, which is very different cultures in the US, and then later come to United States. Now you become startup, which is a very risk-taking culture as well. At the same time, the culture in Korea or in the East Asia generally is very risk-averse. I'm curious how this experience impacts your entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think it is a really interesting question about the risk assessment. Let's say that if you start a business in Korea or Japan, that's a really great opportunity. especially in Korea, there are lots of support from the VCs and the government too. And there is a huge chance that you can work together with great people and the customers. But if you fail, then there should be some backup. Let's say that, of course, you run a company, you work hard and make it happen, but sometimes there is something that you cannot control. Then you inevitably fail. Then you should have a plan to live the rest of your life. People typically think it is hard to come back to some big enterprises after 5 years of struggle and there is no job for me. I think that's sort of the reason people are hesitant to leave the current enterprise and start a company. For me, I think it is a very big blessing to be in the Silicon Valley. Let's say that you have a great idea, a great understanding of the market, build a great team, build a product, try to sell the product. For some reason, you have to shut down the business. So selling an asset or selling a team is another way. Another way is to basically shut down. And unfortunately, you have to come back to another company. And many companies in this area appreciate your experience as a founder. And there are specific job openings in some early stage companies. And we are trying to fill this position who has founding experiences. I think that's a culture that's quite different from Asian countries. But you should keep in mind that you should not start a company to have experience. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your journey. It's such an incredible journey. And is there anything that the community can also help?
So many things. Any pain points in GenAI, let's say that if you're working on GenAI or using GenAI or LLM, or speech, voice, whatever, let me know. You can check my LinkedIn page and then send me a message. I'm happy to listen to any type of pain points. And we are recruiting, we're building a team. If you think it is a good team to work together, please send me a message. You don't need to send me a resume at the first stage because we are building a human team, not AI coding team. So we want to understand you first. We want to build a confidence over time. You don't need to leave your job immediately like that join our company. Over time, we will have a trust on each other, and then naturally we're going to work together. Getting a job or your pain point sharing is going to be definitely helpful. If it is the right fit, let's sit down and talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really awesome to have you here. And also for community members, we'll leave Soohyun's LinkedIn here. So please feel free to connect with him and think about Podonos if you want to join a cool rocket ship or data evaluation or you have pain point in the space. Thank you very much for having me.